My girlfriend cheated with her female friend, so I played with her mind before dumping her. I, 26 male, have been dating my girlfriend 24 female for 5 years now, and we've had a great relationship. If I'm allowed to say so myself, I think I've been excellent to her in all the ways that I can be, and she's been pretty good to me too, before what I'm about to narrate. Our years of dating have been quite conflict-free for the most part. Let me cut to the chase. My girlfriend, let's call her Sadie, to make the story easier to tell, has a friend from college called Lucy. They weren't roommates or classmates, but they met while watching a volleyball or basketball match or something, I can't recall exactly. From there, they became good friends and would hang out occasionally, even post-college. I think they see each other about once or twice a year. So yeah, they're good friends. I've never felt any kind of way about their relationship because it just seemed like two great female friends, or girlfriends, as they call each other. So when Sadie said that Lucy would be in town and she wanted to go crash at her hotel for a night, I didn't think much of it. This wasn't the first time they'd made an arrangement like this. However, for clarity, the first time I did find it odd because our apartment has an extra room, and Lucy could just come to our place. But it made sense when she said that Lucy wouldn't feel as free to do as she could if she had a hotel room. I didn't make it a problem. When the day came, I was happy having the house to myself. I could eat whatever I wanted, watch whatever I wanted, and freeball it, so not a bad trade-off. I had as much fun as I could that day, and Sadie came back the next morning. She seemed to be in a good mood as far as I could tell, and considering she had just had a good time with her friend, that was normal. However, the part that got me was that she asked me, "Is everything all right?" This was a question that she had asked before, but the only time she'd ask it was when my mood was clearly off for whatever reason. And I had a good time by myself, so it didn't really make sense to me. It did make me a bit curious, though. I wouldn't quite say suspicious. I let it go, though. We've got to skip forward now. I was chilling with a pal of mine about 2 weeks later, and he started up on some theory he had that all straight women were bisexual to some degree. It sounded pretty funny to me, but he seemed really insistent on making his point. I can't remember exactly everything he said, but he talked about how they liked seeing each other naked and touching each other playfully in certain spots. I mean, this guy was more of a ladies' man than myself, but it still sounded ridiculous for the most part. By the way, I'd actually love to hear what you all think about his theory in the comments. He'll probably be happy to hear if people agree with him. He can be quite a fool half the time, so it was hard to tell how serious he was about this theory of his. I eventually headed back home, not necessarily convinced of what he had been talking about, but I will admit that it started to make me think. If Sadie and Lucy found themselves in a charged situation, would they stop each other, or would at least one of them stop? Would my girlfriend even consider it to be cheating? They met in college, and that's when women tend to experiment the most. So would I know if they ever experimented with each other back then, or experimented at all? I was a bit annoyed at my friend because I became a little fixated on finding an answer. I guess I was starting to have a little bit of doubt about the relationship between the two. That fixation made me a little more talkative the next day, and I asked her about some experimentation in college. She talked about trying weed and some other light drugs, her words, not mine, but the habits never really stuck. I decided to take the conversation where I wanted it to go, and asked her whether she ever experimented with women. Her reaction seemed exaggerated to me, with a lot of laughing and head shaking, and saying no over and over. It did not make me feel better, because I seriously doubted whether she was telling the truth right then. I tried to press a little bit more, but it seemed close to turning into an issue, so I let it go. At this point, I kind of wish I hadn't followed through with the questioning because I actually didn't believe a word she said now. I feel like she and Lucy either have something going on or they've had something in the past. The past is the past, but it would feel a lot better to have had that stated from the very start if that's the case. I think everyone might agree that someone you've slept with always has a better chance of going again than the general population, so it'd be nice if I had a good idea of this from the very beginning. To cut to the chase, I feel like there might have been something between the two of them, but I can't tell whether it was just a thing of the past or new. I'd really love to know what you all think, though. I want to check her phone, but I'm scared of getting caught because that will seriously hurt trust between us. Edit 1, I saw a few comments saying that I'd be surprised by the number of women who are open to testing out the other side of the fence, so maybe my friend was right. However, it's still really hard for me to see my girlfriend in that way. She's never given me a hunch that she's experimented to that degree, even before I actually asked. I know it sounds like I'm making excuses for her, though. Edit 2, alright, I think you all made it clear that she simply won't tell me even if I ask her directly. So the only way I'm going to get an answer is by finding it myself. I'll look for an opportunity to comfortably find the answers, but I also acknowledge that not seeing anything that shows what she was up to doesn't necessarily mean she wasn't up to anything. Anyhow, once I do, I'll be sure to bring an update for all of you. Edit 3. And just to clarify, even though I never imagined it would be necessary, I'm not demonizing lesbian relationships here, as some of you are claiming. If my girlfriend experimented in college, it makes no difference to me. I just don't think I like the idea of thinking I have a straight partner and finding out they're cheating on me and simultaneously swinging the other way. I know there's the whole fresh around girl-on-girl action, but it doesn't make potential cheating any softer. It's understandable to wonder about these things, especially after she had a bit of an exaggerated response. After all, it's not every day your significant other has sleepovers with someone from their past while you're left to binge-watch Netflix alone. Maybe Lucy is just the designated friend for when Sadie needs to vent about you leaving the toilet seat up for the 100th time. Or perhaps they're secretly plotting world domination through a volleyball league. Who knows? And as far as your pal's theory about all straight women being closeted bisexuals? Well, that's about as scientifically sound as saying all men secretly dream of the Roman Empire. In the end, though, if you're really itching for answers, maybe just be straight up with her. Just remember, curiosity killed the cat, and in this case, it might just put a dent in your relationship too. Update 2. So here's the update that a lot of you have been waiting for. Lucy hasn't been back in town since my first post, and things between me and my girlfriend are cruising along the way they always do. Though my suspicions do occasionally pop up now and then, and I don't like it when they do. So, I made a pretty strong mental note to check her phone or laptop when I had a solid chance to. That opportunity finally came for me a handful of weeks after my first post, and it's been about a week since then. I was lucky enough for there to be a day when my girlfriend went out to the spa, and she was very clearly in a rush to leave the house because she was late for her spa appointment. We used the same model of phone, so I put mine on the table beside her handbag because I know she'd assume it was hers in the haste. We use somewhat different cases. Hers is navy blue, and mine is black, but just as I hoped, she just grabbed the phone without looking at it closely and headed out the door. I heard her car start up, and she left. It was about 20 minutes later that her phone started ringing, and I saw she was calling me from my number. She told me she had taken my phone by accident and asked me not to be mad. There was the option for me to come over with her phone if I needed it that badly, but I told her there was no big deal. I had no issues over her having my phone because I've been faithful, and there's really nothing incriminating beyond my group chat with the boys and the nonsense. We say all the time, it was a worthy trade-off. She's an extremely light sleeper, so I knew I couldn't check her phone while she was sleeping. When I was sure that she wouldn't be coming back home for her phone, I went straight in. The first place I went was the gallery app, and I scrolled back to the date when she had gone to the hotel with Lucy. There was nothing there beyond videos of them at the bar drinking, and then some videos of them goofing off at her hotel. I even checked the trash bin, though any evidence that was there would have been gone by now. I went into her messages app after that and found Lucy's chat there. Initially, I read through the most recent messages, but when I didn't see anything to raise my eyebrows, I scrolled up until I got to the days after the hotel stay. And that's when I found exactly what I really didn't want to find. The conversation went something like this, Lucy. Sadie, I think we should talk about... Well, you know. Sadie, what? Lucy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's leave the jokes for now. Sadie, sorry, it was certainly exciting. Lucy, yeah, it was very exciting. I'm sorry if I crossed a line, but when you didn't turn me away, I couldn't stop. I've never been with a girl before, you know that. Sadie, I wanted to stop you, but I think it felt so good from the very start that I couldn't, and I'm glad I didn't. Lucy, I'm glad you didn't too. Sadie, I don't know if this can be a thing between us. You have a serious boyfriend. Sadie, he doesn't need to know. I almost threw the wall at the phone when I read that part. He doesn't need to know. Well, Sadie, sorry to burst your bubble, but secrets have a funny way of crawling out from under the rug. Now, I get it. You're pacing like a caged tiger, trying to figure out your next move. Punching through drywall might seem like a cathartic release, but trust me, it won't solve anything except maybe giving you a sore hand. Whatever you do, just remember to keep your cool. No rash decisions, no impromptu confessions. You're playing the long game now, and revenge is best served cold. Update 3. This is going to be the last update, hopefully, because I've got my get back. And it was incredibly satisfying to me. A little bit of me feels like I might have been too villainous. Here's some background that I don't recall giving in the previous part. Sadie and I shared an apartment, but it was originally her place. I moved in with her at the 2-year mark, and we started splitting the rent, but it was never my apartment officially. I also ended up telling one of my good friends about the whole situation, and he was able to give some good advice in the form of 2 words: leave her. He also said I could crash at his place in the meantime. I knew I was going to leave her, but I just wanted to do it in a way that would make me feel very satisfied. Conveniently for me, she mentioned how she wanted to go and see her mom or sisters over the few days that she had free from work, and I supported her through the entire thing. When the house was left to me, I began to pack all of the things that belonged to me. It was a very long process since I had been living there for 3 straight years. But I was able to get everything packed up before midnight, and I let a friend of mine who had a pickup truck know that I'd need his help transporting some things. The next day came, and even though it took several trips, we got everything loaded up in his car. I left the key I had with a trusted neighbor, and I took off. I kept chatting with Sadie as if everything was normal until the day she was supposed to get back, and then I went completely AWOL. At this point, she started calling me over and over, and that was when I assumed she got back home. She started to send panic text messages, but I refused to answer a single one. In the end, I went out with my buddy to get my mind off things and left my phone at home since it was being such a huge distraction. Like I said, part of me feels really bad about what I'm doing. She's not the first person to find themselves ghosted and not understand why. But the exact reason I chose this approach is that I know it will mess with her mind more than most people. Am I a bad person? I guess so, but I'm only doing this because she cheated on me. If she's ever going to go into the world and be in a relationship with anyone else, I'd like her to remember this feeling. If she wants to cheat, with a man or with a woman, it doesn't matter. My pal George called me to say that Sadie had come to his house looking for me, but he had no idea what was going on, which was better for me. He wouldn't have said something even if he did know. I gave him a summary of the whole thing, and he was in support of me. So when she came back to his place 2 days later, he told her he still knew nothing. The calls and messages didn't stop, and at a point I started getting them from her parents and her sister. I think I must have gotten well over 200 missed calls by the time I decided I'd had enough. It had been almost 2 weeks since she hadn't heard from me, and being interrupted by a phone call every hour was getting on my nerves, so I decided it was time for me to finally get back to Sadie. I took a drive over to her apartment and knocked on the door. I could tell when she got through the door and looked through the peephole. She opened the door in a flash and jumped into a hug, but I pushed her off me. We went inside, and the place was a relative mess, even after I had freed up so much space by taking my own stuff out of there. I could see that she had been drinking too. She generally looked a mess. "What did I do?" was the first thing that she said, and I remember laughing at that question because I knew that she knew. She had enough time to think through every wrong thing she had done in the relationship. If she was really faithful for as long as I thought, then only one thing would pop up in her mind. So I told her that she knows what she did. "Lucy," she said, and I just laughed again. She took that as confirmation and just sank to the ground, sobbing. I knew she had put all the pieces together, and she realized there was nothing she could say. "I can't live without you, I'm dying without you, you're hurting me so much," she said. All that in between a lot of sniffling and sobbing and wailing. I had 1,000 things to say in response to that, but she was such a pitiful mess that I just turned around and walked out. I could hear her crying my name behind me, but I left her there. I wasn't even going to entertain her with a response because she knew what she was doing when she did it. As soon as I got back to my friend's place, I grabbed the pictures I had taken of her messages with Lucy and sent them straight to her parents and her sister. If they were going to involve themselves, then I was sure they were going to love getting the full update on things. I never got a response from any of them, but I knew they all read what I sent. For fun, I sent it to Lucy too over Facebook. Her response came in quickly, and all she did was apologize and apologize. I really wish I had a way to get at her too, but there was nothing I could do beyond making her feel guilty. She knew I was in the picture back then, and it had made her feel bad, and hopefully knowing that she was the reason for a 5-year relationship going down the drain would make her feel like crap even more. So, it's been a week since I went over to Sadie's apartment, and she's been texting me every day, telling me about how me not saying anything to her is driving her crazy, how I'm causing her so much pain, and how she just needs closure from me. I don't want her to actually snap, but I want her to hurt even more than I did. My mental state wasn't great when she cheated, and I'm not about to coddle her when it's time for the consequences of her actions. I still feel a little villainous for targeting her anxiety, but should I? She didn't offer me the same consideration. So I'm trying to embrace the path I chose a lot better. That's it between us, though. I don't think I'm ever going to answer a message or call from her again, and she's simply going to have to deal with that. Meanwhile, I'll focus on getting my life together and maybe finding someone I can trust. We'll see. I've got to hand it to you, OP. You played the disappearing act like a seasoned magician. Poof! And just like that, you vanished into thin air, leaving Sadie drowning in a sea of unanswered calls and unanswered questions. Sending those incriminating screenshots to her family and Lucy, talk about adding insult to injury. I bet Sadie's mom choked on her afternoon tea when she saw those messages. And as for Lucy, well, she'll probably rethink her life choices faster than you. Can say exposed. But hey, you're not a villain. You're just serving up a cold dish of reality. Sadie played with fire, and now she's feeling the burn. And as for her incessant texts and cries for closure, sounds like someone's feeling the sting of their own deceit. So go ahead, buddy. Focus on rebuilding your life. Find someone who won't leave you questioning every late-night text or suspicious spa day. And as for Sadie, well, let's just say she's learning the hard way that cheating comes with consequences, and they're not always pretty. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time,